I'm going to start rolling now, and then you can just guys get started whenever you want.
Okay. Hi, this is Ed Lawrence with Colliers. I'm here with Allegheny County Executive Rich Fitzgerald. This is for the fourth quarter 2023 Colliers quarterly report. Rich, we appreciate your time this morning, sincerely.
Good to be with you.
As I just mentioned, I've been admiring your work as county executive for, I guess, over a dozen years now. You've had a really good run, and we appreciate your time and the insight that you can provide today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess just to kick things off, on the positive side, what would you say your proudest achievement is in regards to your role as county executive?
Being part of creating an ecosystem for economic growth that we've seen over the last dozen years or so. We have a very, very diverse economy right now, where people can avail whatever their talents are, those opportunities are going to be there. And the fact that we brought in so many young people over the last 10 years, we know when this census came out a year or so ago, showing that our 25 to 34-year-old age range grew by 20%, while the nation grew by 11%. So we doubled the young adult population. Those that were born here and grew up here are staying, and we're also attracting new people because of all the things, whether it's the Tech Council, technology around robotics and AI and things like that, but also even our traditional banking and eds and meds and manufacturing, the things that we do. So I think Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh region right now is in a really, really good place as far as future and opportunities for young people coming out of school.
Yeah, and Colliers couldn't agree with you more. That's one of the things is we're talking to outside or investors from outside of the Pittsburgh region about really how diverse our economy is. Yeah. And I think you hit it right on the head. That's why while other markets fluctuate, Pittsburgh is steady Eddie in that regard because we have that diversity. So
it is. So like when, let's say the price of energy goes down, that it doesn't devastate the whole economy. The way, obviously we had this 40 years ago when steel and heavy manufacturing went down, we were left really devastated when unemployment hit nearly 20%. Right now our unemployment rate in Allegheny County is around 3%.
That's amazing.
An all-time low. And it's the change in this has been we have all these jobs that are going unfilled, whereas before there weren't enough jobs and people would leave. So now, again, there's jobs in so many different areas, 40-some thousand that are unfilled in the county. And again, if you like to fix things, you like to work in medicine, you like to work in hospitality, you like to be tech-oriented, whatever your talents are. You make movies, you're an entertainer, you're in arts.
True.
There's opportunities in those fields.
Yeah, The Unsinkable, I think, they just had their premiere last night on that very subject.
Yeah.
So in regards to, you had a great tenure, what advice or guidance would you give to the recently elected county executive moving forward?
Yeah, and I know County Executive-elect Anna Murata is concerned about maybe the people that have been left behind. And there's a lot of truth to that. There have been, we've had this growth, we've had this wonderful stuff and that have gone on, but not everybody has the skills or the training or even the access to these jobs that are there. So I think connecting those folks that have been left behind to these opportunities that are there. Some of it's around transportation, some of it's around skill enhancement, some of it could be around childcare. So, I think when she talks about, making an Allegheny County for all, I think there's some real opportunities that she could build upon some of the things that have been done. Again, we have so many great organizations like the Tech Council, like the Allegheny Conference, our universities, our foundations, et cetera, that are willing to come to the table. And I think if she continues to bring those folks together, we can continue on a good path.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the timing of your comments are spot on. I know that Audrey Russo, the CEO of the Tech Council, spent some time with the First Lady, who was in Pittsburgh yesterday, talking about that very subject matter, about ways that through job training programs and so forth, we can empower people to be able to fill those positions that provide great wages, wages that one can support a family on. And the last interview we did was with Terrell from the Tech Council related to the apprentice program. So all of that makes a lot of sense, and hopefully we can continue those strides. Getting back to your earlier comment about attracting businesses to greater Pittsburgh region, Allegheny County. Moving on in the future, what ways do you think the county and greater Pittsburgh region can continue to attract businesses and talent here? What are some of the obstacles, and what are some of the things that the county can do to achieve?
Well, I think there's an awful lot of assets we have to put forward. Number one, we have this tech talent that comes out of our great universities, and we, not just Pitt and CMU, but Duquesne, Robert Morris, Chatham, Cardo, Point Park,
Right.
et cetera. Our branch campuses of Penn State and University of Pittsburgh that are in the region, and so many other places like that. So tapping into that talent is easy to do, and keeping people in this region is also fairly easy to do because it's a nice place to live. We have a great quality of life. We have, these arts and cultural institutions, the Major League Sports, and great neighborhoods and great restaurants, and the opera, the symphony, the museums, all the things that we have, and it's affordable. When you think about other places like San Francisco or Seattle or Boston or New York or LA, these are great cities,
Right.
but they're so expensive to live, not just the cost of commercial space, but obviously the cost of living for individuals. So to be able to attract talent, number one, because of the cost, number two, because of the quality of life, and number three, because of the opportunities of the jobs, makes this a really great place to be. And I think all of us have to, when we work with companies that want to come here, it's not about us telling them, well, we want you to be in this neighborhood, or we want you to be in the North Hills, or we want you to be by the airport. Wherever they can thrive, and wherever,
Right.
I think we've got to be market driven in that regard. Google likes being in Bakery Square. That makes a lot of sense for them.
Right.
Shell likes to be out near the airport and in Beaver County. That makes sense for them, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever makes sense for the companies to be able to grow and to be able to partner with us, I think, we've got to be welcoming in that way. And by the same token, I think we've been welcoming for individuals that don't necessarily, quite frankly, look like me. Come from Irish descent. We've seen a big growth in our Hispanic American population, over 80% in the last census.
That's great.
Same with our Asian American population. So we're becoming a real attractive place for people, regardless of where you are from, your nation of origin, your ethnicity, your religion. We want to be welcoming to all people for their talents.
For sure, and that's really what it will take to grow our economy. So, yeah, there's the classic story of Duolingo and some other tech companies running billboards, in Silicon Valley about come to Pittsburgh and be able to afford a home. So, and that does resonate, and as you know, since the pandemic, the business world has changed. There's different types of opportunities for employees to travel to different cities and to be able to work at locations that might no longer be in their backyard. So I think that bodes well for our region. I think you hit that spot on. So hopefully that forward momentum can continue. Just sort of downshifting a bit into the commercial real estate landscape and infrastructure projects that you foresee that may already be on the books now for the county, or future ones that you think will help spur business development, specifically related to commercial real estate, if there's any on the top of your mind.
I think there's a couple.
Yeah.
The new airport that's being built
Sure.
as we speak, and it'll come online a little over a year from now. I think, and I've been out there a number of times touring as the construction goes on, people are going to be amazed when we cut that ribbon. How groundbreaking around technology, around customer experience will be much better. Look, most of us, when we travel, we realize it's a TSA, taking off your shoes, getting in a long line, trying to get to your gate, parking, all the,
Right.
ticketing, everything that's involved in that, they're going to make that experience so much better, which is going to be helpful. And again, we know for commercial real estate, being connected to cities with direct flights really matters. So that's going to help us along those lines. The bus rapid transit that's going to connect downtown Pittsburgh and Oakland, the two biggest job center areas, is really going to have a great impact on not just Oakland and downtown, but the area in between, that uptown corridor. Through where the PPG Paints Arena is, into the Birmingham Bridge,
Sure.
that whole area. You can see the development because people see the future and where that's going to be. And again, downtown is changing, workplaces are changing as people work at home maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days a week, depending on their circumstances. So that is something I think we're still trying to grapple with. And then, of course, how workplaces change to attract the workers back to the office, back to the
Right.
workplace, whether it's a lab, whether it's an accounting firm or a law firm or, engineering firm, whatever it might be, to get people there. And then the other thing that I think sends a signal, we're building a hydroelectric plant along the Ohio River.
Right.
So all the county operations, the courthouse, the county office building, the Kane regionals, the jail, the parks, they're all going to be powered by a hydro plant going over our locks
It's
and
amazing,
dams.
yeah.
So we're going to use our rivers that
Yeah,
for a century we didn't not have used them very nicely for industry, but now we're going to use
Right.
those rivers to help clean up the environment a little bit, not add to the carbon footprint,
Yeah.
and provide sustainable energy to run county operations.
Fantastic,
So those
yeah.
are some of the big, I think, infrastructure projects that are coming on. And then one of the things I'm proudest of on infrastructure, when I came into office, 72 of our 300 bridges were in quote unquote poor condition by the civil engineering standards. As I leave office, it's going to be down to zero.
That's excellent,
We've fixed the bridges. We've got them.
Right.
And we know what happens when bridges, with Fern Hollow and Route
All
30 a
too
couple
well,
years
yeah.
ago. So investing in infrastructure isn't something we all think about. It just, we take for granted.
Yep.
But we've been spending a lot of time and a lot of work in making sure that that happens. And then, of course, with the federal government coming out with the largest infrastructure investment that they've made in over half a century, we want to make sure we get our fair share of that money here in southwestern Pennsylvania
No
and
doubt.
continue to add to it.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I have two sons, and neither one are geared towards engineering, but I mean, to be a civil engineer for the future in Pittsburgh, that's
For the
job
next 10
security.
years, you're going to be pretty busy, that's for sure.
No question about it.
Yep.
In terms of everything that you're talking about, I think, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, really proud of what we've achieved as a region, and a lot of it is cooperation between public and private sectors. We
Yes.
see that time and time again. On the real estate side, one of our clients, RIDC,
Sure.
great partner
Yes.
in that regard, as well as the URA and others.
Yep.
As you look at your tenure again in public-private partnerships, is there a particular example that you might want to cite that you saw those two come together and really achieve something? And then moving forward, what do you think that the new leadership needs to do to continue that trend?
I think really it is around kind of just having relationships and discussions with some of our leaders. And I think back to the Shell cracker plant and how big of a win that was a decade ago when they made the decision to pick Beaver County.
Right.
And you saw the corporations, you saw the government, from the governor to our state legislators to folks like myself at the county level, all working together to, we're competing with Ohio, we're competing with West Virginia, we're competing with Kentucky.
Sure.
And they picked us, and that was a big, big win, an $8 billion investment, an investment in manufacturing. And I think about the great relationships we have with our universities and UPMC, particularly UPMC Enterprises. So, these are big nonprofits. They're not necessarily government, they're not necessarily private, but they're kind of in that space, kind of in between.
Right.
And that level of cooperation with those great universities and
Yeah.
keeping the research and development that they're developing on the campuses here in the region.
Yeah.
To, whether it's a Duolingo, as you mentioned, that's one great example, but there have been
Right.
others that have come out. And the reason Google is here, and the reason Facebook is here, and the reason all these life science companies want to be here is because what Pitt Med and UPMC and AHN and some of the research that goes on here is keeping us at the forefront. I'm the third county executive as I leave office after 24 years. 24 years ago, the first county executive used to tell a story.
Mhm.
And the story, he says, if you had two guys that were sitting on a park bench and one guy turned to the other and says, what would you do if you knew the world was going to end and a meteor was going to hit the world and the world was going to end? And the guy turns to his friend and he says, I'd move to Pittsburgh. You'd move to Pittsburgh? Why? Because it takes things 5 years later to get to Pittsburgh than it does anywhere else.
Yes.
And 25 years ago, that was true.
Right,
there was
right.
a lot of truth to that. We were
Yeah,
always behind.
I remember
I will
hearing.
tell you, 25 years later, we're 5 years ahead of people.
Right.
What's happening with robotics? What's happening with AI? What's happening with energy? And on and on and on. We've really become leaders and groundbreakers in the new technologies, the new
Right.
jobs, and the new economy. And I think we want to keep that momentum going.
Totally agree. Yeah, Werner Herzog just released an autobiography, and I know that he actually, in one of his documentaries about AI, spent time in Pittsburgh, right there in the Strip District. That's a big part of that documentary.
Yeah.
And again, native Pittsburgh are beaming with pride with that. So
Yeah.
I totally agree, and I think our friends at the Innovation District in Oakland,
Yes.
Sean, and those, do
Absolutely.
a great job. So, it's great we have those resources, and that the public-private partnership is important. So just to end again on a light note, positive note for you, as you look past December and into 2024, what's next for Rich Fitzgerald?
Well, what I'd like to do is do something in the region, dealing with economic development, workforce development, infrastructure, the things I've been doing. It won't be as elected official.
Sure.
I'm leaving literally the highest position in the region, which I'm very, very proud of the work, not just me, but the team that has done, whether it's at the airport, our county manager, the folks that build all those bridges and fixed the parks and,
Right.
grew the jobs and did all these things. So this is my home. My son and daughter-in-law just had a baby, our first grandchild. So
congratulations.
my wife and I, so we're going to be a little
Awesome.
busy,
Yeah.
with that. And they live here in Lawrenceville in the tech center of all that we've been talking about. So
you can spoil them.
I know we'll spoil them, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But for me, it's really about the future, and I want to continue to do things for this region, for my family, and contribute in some way.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of Colliers and the region at large, thanks for your efforts.
Thank you.
Excellent, and really appreciate your time. This is a fun conversation.
Keep
So-
up the good work.
All right, we will do so. So this is Ed Lawrence with Colliers again. It's a wrap with our interview with Rich Fitzgerald. Again, we appreciate his time, and thanks so much.